could be any number of things. Um, we just getting that chill on, and could be Wednesday morning. Got some interesting topics to discuss, so we're gonna get into it. NBA Finals last night. We're gonna see what we're working with. Pretty simple questions. The NBA Finals over now. Do you think the Pacers got two games in them, or do you think? What you think? It's a good question. It's a legit question. Why my thing freezes up? It's a legit question. Okay, we're back. Thought I was having some technical difficulties, but we are back. If this thing tends to act kind of funny, then I'm trying to send all my streams out. Everybody know that I'm live. So if everybody's okay. Okay, I see somebody already hit the like. Someone already took the poll. Someone said they think the finals is over. That's okay. What's happening? How you doing? If Halliburton is hurt, they're not coming back. That I'm gonna tell you. What's happening? NRC. Gotta do it. Gonna hit the thing up. My fault. Okay, thank you for coming through. Where this thing at? I gotta write this thing down. What's happening? Yeah, I'm gonna do it today for sure. I appreciate it too because there've been people been actually been subscribing. I've been getting more clips, so I appreciate it. And thank you everybody for coming through. And be doing a live stream today and definitely tomorrow. Not Thursday, maybe Friday. So pencil me in for obviously today and tomorrow if everything goes right. And but anyway, got to have people on that. But yeah, thought I'd touch on this one real quick. Yeah, if Tyrese Halliburton is hurt, they're not coming back. I can't see, even though uh, the guard he came in behind Halliburton, but that's not enough to offset that. That has to be full tilt. They have to play a full balance to have a chance against to even have a chance in this finals. If they don't, it's not going to work. I don't think it'll work, but I could be wrong. Could be wrong. We shall see how it all turns out. I'm just adding some notice is out. So, and if you follow me on other social platforms, I'm on different places. So you can see me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Just getting the word out. I haven't decided if I'm gonna do Twitch or not, but I got Lincoln. So, ever generally speaking, and of course I'm on Threads, so it's all connected. So you see me over there, you want to holla, holla, holla. Let me know what's up. Appreciate everybody that comes through. And if you want to talk, let's converse. Welcome to conversation. A lot of little things to get into. We're gonna take a peek, take a voyage around. We back. How do I say it? I don't really have one that I really support because I'm a fan of the game. I respect the competitiveness. I know people might say England or Germany or Italy or Argentina. I'm a fan of talent. I don't really have like one that I would go. So I got respect for them, and I know that if you're in certain parts, if you say certain things, people be like, you can't say that because they will eat you up. But I'm a how do I say it? I'm want to say kind of like a casual fan of it. So I'm not a hardcore fan of it, but I got a lot of respect. Make no mistake about it. It's a tough sport. Takes a lot of physical endurance. And I got but I don't have a team per se. Who's your team? I usually don't get asked that question, so that kind of catch me off guard. So that's how you know you're an international flavor. Because in America, they don't really go Google about soccer. Now, I think a lot of it is because the women are more dominant than the men, and that's the facts. Men's soccer gets a lot of hype, but they're nowhere near as good as the women. So, just saying. All right. We're going to talk about this finals, though. Jalen Williams went off last night. He scored 40. I think that if OKC plays like that, it's hard for Indiana to come back. And I think it's going to be tough to win two straight games. Really. You know, sometimes you just meet against a better matchup. I think that's pretty much the reality. I think people who denied the Pacers being a feisty team were stupid. Jay Z. I'll spend $1 million to bet against a team that belongs in the finals. I think the biggest problem with them, and I'm not taking nothing from Halliburton. He was hurt last night. No, you can't have a 4 point game and you can't be like that. But he's played at such a high level that he put them in a position where they believe. So there's nothing to be taken for granted with that. As a matter of fact, dare I say, his run in the finals was scarier than what Reggie Miller did. Now, you can say Reggie is the baddest pacer. You can say that. But Halliburton really made this team believe. I mean, so they get a piece, they got a chance. Because if they keep the core, the way they play. And this series ain't over yet. It's not to say they can't go and win tomorrow night because they can win. All it takes is one win to tip the cart, and they back in it. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. But OKC Shea played well enough. Jalen Williams hit big shots, and that's what you got to do against a team like the Pacers. You can't take them light. They don't back down. So one of those things that you have to take into consideration when you go against a team like that. So, yeah, just giving you some open commentary about that finals and whatnot. I like the finals. I'm very impressed. And I think that that's how I look at it. Some people may or may not look at it that way. I think it's a really great finals. I would welcome it happening another year or two. I wouldn't have no problem if they had 2 out of 3. In all honesty, if the Pacers had another score to go along with what they got, probably trim the fat and get the guy who can straight out score, they might could snatch it. But that's really what they're missing. And before you ask me, well, how did they beat who they beat? Well, when they won against Milwaukee, Milwaukee at the like I said before, Giannis, if you take Giannis out, even if Damian Lillard played, Milwaukee's just a discombobulated team, poorly coached, and don't have enough offensive force. They miss Drew Holiday, and they don't have an open score threat. So they are walking wounded, and they kind of soft. So that's a problem. They got to get an offensive guy. They don't play Lopez the right way, and they lack. So that's obvious. They beat Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell, because everybody is kind of like the same as the Pacers, and Donovan Mitchell he's borderline. He's one of those guys that you sit there and you debate: is he great? How good is he really? Then you see what happens in that particular series. So they lost. So and because they're basically playing against themselves. Cleveland blew a game in there, but the Pacers can beat teams that are finesse oriented. Then you get a team like New York, and New York just choked away that first game, and that was it, really. So the Knicks wore down. Pacers had enough to throw, and they got a. And so basically, if teams coming in with this 1 A star or two, then they tend to wear them down. Whereas in this series, OKC is an equal balance. They're an equal balance. So, but anybody would be crazy and dumb enough to think they were gonna get swept or it was gonna be 4-1. I mean, Pacers are too feisty of a team. They got a coach who coaches feisty. Their problem is that they just don't have that other guy to come in to finish it up. And sometimes they go through these situations where they try to, they should have gone at them full throttle and they didn't. So that's what ended up happening. So that's what happened there. So anyway, that's where we stand with that. I think the finals will be very interesting. So anyway, I'm gonna be on for a little while. I'll give people about if I don't see nothing going on about 20 minutes, I'll call it a day. Cause I'll be on for like a minute. What's up? Your timing is perfect. You must have just heard that I was getting kind of like, yeah. How you doing? How you doing? Good day to you too. What's on the agenda today? I'm sure you got a lot of thoughts and takes about the game or whatever, and there's a lot going on. I did my video today about it, and also I did that video about that stupid take that Stephen A. Smith did with Jay Will about Giannis, and I mean, just say that wasn't my main headline, but I might make that about. But just say you don't like Jalen Williams. And again, the Pacers are playing against a team that can beat them at their own game. You know, because basically, if you take Shea off OKC, these are the same teams. It's like a scrimmage. It's just that OKC can match them. The Pacers' problem is they don't have that dude. That's their problem. They don't have that guy. He had a bad game. He got hurt. McConnell came in and played good. Yeah, it happened. I mean, it happened. But hey, if he's healthy tomorrow, he fool around and win, make a game 7, then what? All bets are off. This series is pretty evenly matched. Don't get excited. I do think OKC is the better team, but don't be surprised if it goes 7. Rick Carlisle do got them playing. It's just that he picked a bad time to have a bad game. But I'm not gonna diss Halliburton. He done already proved to me that he's legit. I'm not gonna sit there and say who because he's in the finals, and there are guys who I won't name who haven't done as near as much him as he did already. Well, he won the first game, so he'll get carte blanche. But it's just that OKC shifts a lot on you, and they don't let you sit there and do what you want. That's what's happening. It's just that Pascal has to come up big, and then Miles Turner. They see they don't they a one trick pony type of team. That's the only problem with them. One guy gets hot, and they kind of fall behind that, and they don't play consistent with that. That's why this series is so tough for them. Because to be honest with you, the way they play, they're gonna beat 80-90% of the teams they play in a 7 game series. This one just happens to be tougher because the team's style can dictate. Well, still doesn't take away the fact that he helped lead them to the Eastern to the finals. And it doesn't take away the fact that the guy had a good season, and you know, we can debate superstar or not, but we can't say that he ain't been clutch. We can't say that he hasn't come up. So yeah, that's the problem. Reggie Miller, Danny Granger, even a Paul George, a guy that could you put the ball in his hands and that's 25 plus points. That's what's missing from the Pacers. That's the only thing that's hurting them from winning. Because if they get that, they get somebody else. So what? I don't care. I don't be paying my time worrying about some grandpa going to try to get a new bag. Okay, grandpa going through a midlife crisis and he think he gonna go there and get the Ferrari and get the blonde, whatever. I'm not impressed. You see, unlike the media, this ain't the media here. I'm not the media, so I don't operate like the standards do. Don't get excited about no old timey cat going to a team that he's just gonna rock the jersey and he ain't gonna be no factor. Now, he didn't go back to Golden State or if he didn't go to Houston. Oh, he was just he said that if Giannis don't win another chip, that his career is underachieved, and Jay Will crapped on him, and I did a whole video about it, and I'm telling him Stephen A. is so fraudulent. He came up in the time period back, grew up a certain era where you win one ring, and you never had to pay for another meal again in the town. Like when Eli Manning beat the Patriots the first time, his bed, everywhere he wanted in New York was pretty much whatever he wanted. He had carte blanche. You know, so but you get these dodos who say things like that. They just mad because he's choosing to stay in a small market and then market. That's what it's about. Believe me, if Giannis had one ring and he was in L.A. or New York or somewhere like that, they you see how they treat Tim Duncan. So just so you know, this ain't nothing new. It ain't nothing new. Yeah, that's what he was trying to say. Well, KG got his in Boston, but no one talks about it. But again, it's hard to win one. It really is. You know. My knocks about him ain't got nothing to do with the chip or not. It's got more to do with the fact that he doesn't really with the coaching and with the crew. That's in part on him. But I'm not gonna hold because I remember when the guy was raw bone. He really didn't even have half a shot. His athleticism is something else though, and he bunny hops and he definitely got spring in him. But so that's what happens. So, but yeah, they trying to that's what Stephen A. does. And I'm like, it's tough to win in the league. I disagree. I think 2 or 3 more years tops, and I think he probably got about two more top, and then it'll start to drop. I think he got three, but I think he got one or two top, and then it'll fall off. Can't see him play more than three. And if he's chasing a ring, then he just basically gonna be stat padding because they're not a championship team. He all but said that before they got Jimmy Butler. They're not a championship team. They're nowhere close. They had a chance. Poole had Poole and Looney and Kamingas all that. Had they second squad been legit, but they because they actually were in position what they drafted. And they could have had Halliburton, but they skipped. They were in position, and those guys didn't. I mean, Kamingas is good, but he don't fit what Steve Kerr wants. Looney is a throwback. He just doesn't score enough points. So they missed out on getting the big. That's why I thought that was surprised they didn't go after Pascal. I was kind of surprised at some of the choices they made, but they didn't do. So we'll see. I think he's got two more strong ones. I don't know about three. I hold him in high regard, of course. I like Steph a lot, but I think it's gonna be tough. I really do. I think it's gonna be tough. But he got a better chance at 30,000 points, and he got another ring. You really wanted to go there, huh? Oh God, God. By default, Jamal Lewis. By default. But if he got to play against Cleveland every week, he'd be the greatest running back ever. Because Lord knows he ate the Browns for breakfast. Ray Rice never had a chance. He never had a chance. So by default, yeah, because they did him dirty. What's up, Florida? How you doing? He sure did because he got to play them. It was like year he had the two grand and he had like about 800 yards against them alone. I was like, oh man. And we never looked at Jamal Lewis as that, but glad to have Florida in the house. All things considered with everything going on in Florida, though, but yes. Yeah, it's gonna be some hard work. They gotta find a team that can get a bench. That's the key. They need a legit scorer because I don't trust Buddy Hill. He too streaky. And Jimmy Butler is going to be a good fit, but they need another piece. If you get you another piece, then you could bring Buddy Hield or Butler off the bench, and then you're dangerous. You dangerous if you could pull that off. But who can you get? Let they have Byron Floyd in the house. Thank you very much. It's gonna be hard because I think that's what they got to do. So I expect them to make a move. But they never do what I think they're gonna do. And I hope that they don't think they're gonna play in small still that's gonna get them over. Because I'm gonna tell you something, they're not planning their future properly. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Observing. Everybody said the finals is over now. Okay, that's cool. Got pretty much unanimous so far. It's gonna be hard for the Pacers to win two in a row. It really is. But it's not like they can't win one. It's just gonna be hard to win two. I think that game gonna be tough the next game. But if OKC finishes them off, then Shane them got a chance at a little run. I truly believe that. And then you gotta start. I've already done a video about where he will rank. He got hurt, and he's also trying to defer. He's trying to play within the team concept. He's getting orders. That's what's up. He's getting orders. Rick Carlisle is not pushing the envelope, and it is coaching. And I've had issue with Rick Carlisle before. I had a problem with him last year in that Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics. Oh, Roy Jones, okay. I like Roy Jones back in the day. He's the first dude I ever saw when I watched him on HBO be in the rain talking while he be waggling on turkeys. He be talking to Jim Lamp. It was funny. Oh yeah, a lot of did. Deion Sanders, one of my favorites out of Florida. Yeah, so if you're a basketball fan, give me a one. And if you're familiar with Rick Carlisle, give me a one. If you're familiar when he coached the Dallas Mavericks, give me a one. Because if you know where I'm going with this, I'm gonna talk about what Rick Carlisle coached Ryde John Rondo, and him and Rondo fell out. Now there is some similarities with the way Rondo plays and Halliburton play, and for whatever reason, Rondo didn't. He fell out with Carlisle in Dallas, and Rondo got thrown out and got thrown. That's how he ended up with the Lakers. No, I like Roy. No, we just got through talking about Roy up above. Jay Will talked about Roy. But when I think about Florida, I think, yeah, I tend to think about football. But anyway, the point was, Ray John got thrown out. One of them, I ain't gonna say the best. One of them, because SC gonna have arguments. SC fans will come at you talking trash. Alabama fans will talk trash. Georgia fans will talk trash. They were. I'll say this. They were definitely entertaining as all get out. Except when they lost that game to Ohio State when Maurice Claret balled out. But that SC Texas, that's the only reason why I can't say that. They were great though, and they had more hype. I mean, the Hurricane hype was real. They were bad in '91. I mean, I can go a lot of times when the Hurricanes had top. Yeah. Well, he misses just somebody that can finish. That's one of the things. That's one of the reasons, if you must know, why he got fired in Detroit. He's one of those coaches that he gets his teams up. Now it's just a matter he don't do nothing stupid. I think what has happened in this series again, the speed and not attacking. What's up? What's up? What's up? Glad to right on. Glad to have you in here. What's up? What's up? That's my problem with Carlisle. He has a tendency to kind of not push the wheel. Yeah, that's hard to say. Yeah, Tommy Frazier, who was a beast. Tommy Frazier had one of the best win loss. I mean, he was. I had a buddy of mine who's a Cornhusker fan too, by the way, and he used to get in my ear about that. Thank you, T. Appreciate that. So Cornhusker fans was real. That's a lost art. But Tommy Frazier in another era, oh yeah, hmm and did not hardly ever lose. So, but it's hard for me to sit there and say that this one college team was better than that college team. You know, it's not fair to say that because again, but I'll say that there was a lot. She hit some big shots the other night, but I'll leave it at that. I mean, well, it may have been because of before your time. See, this is what happens when you just say anything stupid to say something and whatever. No one has ever came at her and she was held up against her will. And he says anything for clicks and views. Now she had a good game the other night. I saw that game when she had her tongue out and she was hitting shots, and she could shoot. But no, stop the cap. That's not even cap word. That's insane asylum. That's insane asylum. And if I even waste my time to do a video about that stupidity, I gotta think about how I would even word it to justify that. But see, that's the self-loathing that goes on. They pick the worst situation for a black man or a white woman who has options, and that's what they do. Well, that's not even for discussion. Kaepernick dealt with more than dealt with stuff too. Shoot, Madu Raul. I can name you people that dealt with stuff. She ain't had to deal with nothing. She ain't no threat to nothing. She is the establishment. How you can compare? Shoot. Now, if Caitlin Clark gets involved with a brother and she somehow morphs into Tina Marie, let me know. You don't know who Tina Marie is? Look her up. Look her up, Rick James, because that's a white woman that went through some problems when she was with a brother, and you didn't get, and you stayed R&B. One pop song and everything was R&B. Let me know. Caitlin Clark is in her bag right now with that. So he just be saying stupid stuff. But Byron is right though. I mean, hey, Byron is right. If you're from a certain area, you saw a lot of those teams, or if you watched old highlights, you did. And even some stuff I saw, I already saw that mess. I wasn't even going to address that until you mentioned it. I saw that video. I saw that thing on Instagram. I peeped it out the other day, and it was a nice, cute, soft summer song. Different boast than what his record is saying, but it's just that he can't just come up with those little songs that people will, because the radio is not the same no more. You got Morgan Wallen with a number one song, which is sickening, and you got Sabrina Carpenter. That's hilarious and sad. So I saw that mess. I don't think people really tripping about his personal life though. I think that they just, because I mean, it's too much craziness. No, because she's a phenomenal. It's like the Taylor Swift situation. And see, as I told Ted a long time ago, it was like 25 years ago, and I dealt with the white kids who was liking Jason Williams, and they was all in my face talking about you can have Iris and we got Jay Will, because they're looking for a white counterpart to talk trash and get in your face and blah blah blah, and that's what ends up happening until that fades out, and then they're looking for someone else to come in. And she can shoot. I mean, she shot them 3 pointers. She shot those threes out there, and she stuck her tongue on. She could, but again, stop making it more than what it is. Granted, the WNBA is racist in the sense they don't promote black women as like they should. Success stories. I mean, Cynthia Cooper just won like 3 and 4 titles all left and right. That get Cheryl Swoop just came in, and then Lisa Alexis came, but and Aja Wilson. You know what this is about. So, and now take your extremes with the WNBA because after Andre Iguodala said everybody looked rough around the edges. Now they're either one or two extremes. They're looking for Snow White or they're looking for a 304. They can't get what they're doing with the WNBA, so it's going one two extremes. Of course they will. Penn State was great too. Joe Paterno era. Now we talk about this every year because Ted will tell you about the the Franklin era. Penn State's always good for being 10-2. 10-2. You know how they're gonna lose to. They're gonna always lose to Ohio State. They always and they do good. And then it's always the same old thing with Penn State the last 5 years. Oh, of course they do. Of course they do. Well, see, Angel Reese is not a popular figure. She's considered, problematic. She ain't crossed over like that. She ain't got that kind of crossover. She's got hood crossover. So let me tell you something. And this is good that I can say this. Even in this era that we're in, where you have social media, and Shaq is right that you got your platforms, you still getting ghettoized. Because she's still getting ghettoized because she still predominantly appeals to who? Black folk. Angel Reese's thing is still black folk. Now, if they had a crossover sister come along that has some popularity, like Brittany Griner, believe it or not, has some popularity. She just, you know, obviously, oh yeah, Ty Lue. Don't let Michael Jordan diss him because of his ring. Ty Lue earned his spot. Let me tell you a Ty Lue story. I used to play NBA 2K on the computer. Who was I at the court? Ty Lue. And he'd be busting shots all day. He played all right. It wasn't. He's obviously turned into a good coach. That too. Of course, Cube is pleased with it because Cube got the hype. Cube's got two guys who should still be playing in the league, so of course he's hyped with it. You know, and Cube's got something that the NBA doesn't have. He actually got basketball. Didn't tell you got to this finals. I think Cube got them inspired. You just gave me a good idea. Thank you for posting that. He did because he was always moving around him because he couldn't. One thing you do with Iverson, if you don't go for the bait, and you stay in front of him, he's got a he it's a movement. Yeah, well, it's a lot of things go on. I thought so too, but it's a lot of stuff that goes on. Iverson always give people props. Don't let the scoring average. I mean, Ty Lue was a third tier player, but you know, he he played hard, and that's what makes a good coach. Nah, they ain't gonna swing it topless though. Well, he would put him on him because D Fish was getting toe up. Fish was too big and pouty, and he couldn't stay in front of him. Whereas Ty Lue was quick and effective, and so it's like I gotta make. That's what Phil does. That's what a finisher does. He knows how to make the adjustments. He's not gonna X and O, but he gonna see. Okay, I gotta put a sweet spot. I gotta have Fish as a problem as a tweener. Oh, okay. I'm glad you laughed. Yeah, yeah. Genty's bad. Genty bad. Well, we always talk about Penn State. Ted knows 10-2. Ted, knows. Just tell him 10-2. You know when them losses coming to Ohio State. You already know. I see Franklin with his glasses on. It's always the same old thing with Penn State. Always 10-2. And they gonna get to play. They gonna get to play in the Fruit of the Loom Bowl, and they might win it. And then it's another 10-2 year. Ain't nobody worried about Penn State though. But yeah, Genty did go to that. The Raiders got goes. I saw the Laundry League. I don't know about the Laundry League. Oh yeah, they play hard. Oh yeah. I seen different leagues. It's a lot more going on. You know, I ain't knowing about the laundry league, but anyway, that got my attention. But yeah, Talu did do a pretty good job with it. Yeah, that's what it was. I ain't know about no laundry league. I said laundry. Well, that's what one I remember. I watched them games. Yeah, because I was thinking dirty laundry, you gonna get knocked out. Cause you don't give them no ideas though. Don't give them no ideas though. They might do that. Don't give them no ideas though. But I remember it though. I watched it. Definitely. I saw some hits in there too. They did. That's the truth about him. And he once in a while he hit some outside shots. Everybody was looking at them braids, and he had that Bone Thugs and Harmony braid style. But he was a good fit for. He was the kind. That's why he's a coach. And those are the kind of guys that end up making good coaches. And they come from the Phil Jackson system and the way he would compartmentalize. Yeah. Well, for certain purposes. Again, he was a better fit against Iverson than Derek Fisher. Fish had two back wheels. One of the greatest centers to ever play the game, even though that was precursor though. And the problem I think he ran into the league being all white. I think that's one of the things that worked against him. He's actually was a pretty straightforward cat too, but he paid a price, with certain things. He ain't as romanticized as he should be. He should have been like the Ted Williams of basketball. Well, D Fish tried. It didn't really work out, and I know why it didn't work out because he wasn't just coaching X's and O's. He was looking at the sidelines, the 304s. Pookie Snow would be a legit coach, but it's usually those kind of guys that were third tierish that they tend to make into coaches. I don't think D Fish will ever get another regular NBA coaching job again. What about Gervin? Gervin was great, ABA, NBA, and you know Dr. J aside, he probably, as far as the neighborhood, was probably the next most flashy cat to come out the ABA because that finger roll was all that. It was all of that. In fact, that poster of him with the ice and that finger roll he did, he was bad. Wow, pretty good. The pole has been pretty much dominant. OKC getting a lot of love. Thank you for taking part. What's up, time? If they can't get, if they start slow, oh, you asking me out of Chris Paul or Tiny? I'm taking Tiny. He led the league in scoring and assists. Come on now. And he had a higher scoring average. CP ain't never seen that. Not peaking prime Archie ain't. I think CP3 gets overblown. Yeah, you know I'm not. You know you already know. I'm not the biggest CP3 fan at all. I think he could have been better than he was, and when Magic came on there and they did all that top four ranking, I'm like, in what universe? If the Pacers can't, if the Pacers can't get off to a better start, it's over. I still think they can take it to seven, but they gotta play great though. They gotta come better than what they did, and they cannot afford to think they're gonna. Again, they gotta speed it up. Glad they have time on here. Time already saying that the Pacers is done. Okay, I gotta take heed to that. Kevin McHale, because McHale used his body and his everything. He came as a six man, made himself into one of the greatest players ever. Anthony Davis is more talented, but I don't think we're gonna ever get the full tip of him. That's a shame. We'll never get the fullness of him. We got McHale. McHale's clothesline changed the finals. I don't even think Anthony Davis would put a fingernail. Somebody went by him like that. Of course they would do that. Of course they would. And they wrong as can be, but of course they would because of all that. But it's not the best. It's not better than the one I saw 20 years ago with the Spurs and the Pistons. It's not better than D Wade's against Dallas. It's not better than it's because of who's involved. But it's no. Yeah, you could say that. But the problem that you run into is that he's an older white guy that most people don't even talk about. And it's one of them situations that, again, he's not as revered as Ted Williams. I know it's a different sport, but if you go by Milton's dominance, he would be like the basketball equivalent to that, and it's not. Or Otto Graham, quarterback for Cleveland Brown. I'm just saying, or Bart Starr with Green Bay. It's not really their fault on that. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because a lot of his stuff, I liked him, but a lot of stuff was gimmicky. The whole Chocolate Thunder and the dunks, which kind of took away. He was athletic and strong, but when they actually got somebody like Moses Malone, they won chips. And Dawkins was not that dude for that level. He's kind of almost. It's kind of like a guy that was more theatrics. Dwayne Wade comes to mind. Jordan comes to mind. Shaq comes to mind. I want to say most of them have been in losses, though. If you must know, because Isaiah Thomas since '88 on one leg was amazing. What's up? What's up? How you doing? Most of the best ones I actually saw were in losses. If you must know, I could actually say Dennis Rodman's performance was because he won two games with hustling Seattle. He beat them out their head. I have never seen another finals performance like that. Never, never. And the NBA ain't nothing but a mentalist thing. So for him to hustle the Sonics like that, never saw anything like that. That was amazing to me. Because that's when you know you're a basketball geek. And you're sitting there thinking, like, God, this guy can get into McIntyre's head and Sean Kemp's head and do those things. And he did. That might be the best individual performance I ever saw. It's not gonna come up in stats, but what he did is he took two games. They out hustled the Sonics, and he was the reason being. So mine aren't usually always gonna be about stats. I thought that was one of the best, if not the best, because it took that. It really took something like that. So what's up? Glad to have everybody coming through. Hit that like button up and that's what we got. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna say about that. But yeah, that's the only problem with Dawkins. I mean, you know, some cats become a sideshow. And I liked him okay, but he became like a sideshow. All right, now everybody keep on coming now. Let's see what we working with. Don't get quiet on me now. Let's see what we talking about. Okay, remember trust story, right? Well, they all sound familiar. There's a lot of them like that though. A lot of them like that. Yeah, I do. I do. Because you had to see him in his prime to understand what he went up against. And, you know, I mean, he drew so much attention, but he still made incredible catches and plays. I mean, he beat you with the rack. He created the rack, the run after catch, outrunning Deion Sanders of all people. He just beat you in different ways. I mean, he just was just a step above everybody else. And Moss, probably the most gifted one because his footwork was impeccable, but Jerry Rice was just another level. I see them come up big time with deep catches, so I'd have to say yes. Oh yeah, there's nothing Jerry Rice couldn't do. Yeah, I think I heard about that case in Chicago, but that happens so often that you got to refresh my memory because those are pretty common in the shy. That's why I used to call it shy rack. Well, if anybody knows about the deep ball catching, it's Deshaun Jackson because that's how he made his bread and butter. That was his strength, really. So, if you watched it, you know what I mean. So, that's all I gotta say about that. But he was though. What's this going on? I'm not sure about it. What you mean about this Scottie Pippen video? What you mean? Oh, it's simple. So some people didn't think he was necessarily a top 50. Some might say more close to 75. There were actually some people thought he was overrated. Scott Bayless didn't think he was top 50. Some people didn't think Pippen was. It's a legit video. Do you think he belongs in the top 50 or do you think he's close to 75? That's all I'm saying. It's not hard to cipher. Do you think he's on the upper echelons of the topper tier, or do you think? And I said this before. Had he beaten Shaq, won that 2000 finals and won, he would be top five, no questions asked. But he lost, and without Jordan, he looked lost. Kukos hit the game-winning shot. He pouted. He stunk it up in Portland. He didn't finish in Portland. I don't include the Houston era because they were old, but he had opportunities and he just didn't deliver. Yeah, and see, that's how far he fell off. Because if he wins that, he's top five or six. But he's all the way slid. You see what the slide is? Even amongst you, you said top 40. So that should tell you for a guy that's got six rings and was a sidekick, look at what you're saying. So that's why it makes a good video. That's exactly why I said that. Because you're more in the 40 to 75 boat than you are the 20 to 35. See where I'm going? He's one of those guys that he's a polarizing divider, and he thought he was better than he was, and so people kind of split on him. So my video, which I had got asked about him, and that because he brought it on himself though. He been trying to downplay Jordan, and he's been talking all that smack. So I had to, you know, and he's not respected like that. I mean, the Pistons don't look at him as no top. They think as a sidekick, and he came up big, and they give him his due. So that's all. But anyway, we just talked about it. No, okay. See, got some people here. Let's keep it going. I should have another half hour. Well, it's just that when he played his role, I gotta think about that because KD's in trouble. Man, you depend on who you talk to. I think KD's because of Giannis and Jokic, and if Shea turns into something more, KD's situation is not going to end well. I'm telling you right now. I already see where he slide bad. He's not looking good. Oh, had he won that Brooklyn one, yes, he would actually be top 6 or 7. That tone alignment, everything. You know, I think they're going by his potential. And let's go to his defense: 30,000 points, two-time champion, two-time Finals MVP, league MVP. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So they were talking about that. Jay Wilner were talking about that, and they said he getting away with Ant. I think it would be a problem too, because neither one of them is what I call leadership quality. You gotta have somebody who can steer you. And if Katie's gonna play with somebody, he has to actually be where he's dependent upon as the main dependency. So, like, let me give an example. Appreciate that, WM. If you put him in Houston right now, there you go. You put him in this is what I'm going to say about that. He may have been the best player, but he wasn't the main player. It's kind of like Alex Rodriguez with Derek Jeter. He may have been the better player, but he wasn't the main player. Doesn't and it doesn't really carry no weight because if he was that guy, what happened in Brooklyn? What happened in Phoenix? If he was that guy. Now, Devin Booker's an all-star. But he ain't Steph Curry. Kyrie Irving's an all-star. Hit a game-winning shot. One of the most important game-winning shots ever. But he ain't Steph Curry. And you had James Harden too. So I'm just saying. Well, it's because of his scoring prowess. But it's got more to do with the stats than it actually has to do with the overall concept. But you see, let me give you an example of what I'm saying. If you put him on that Pacer team right now, he looks great because that's all they need to beat OKC was just a guy like him who could score 27 points a game. All he'd have to do, and he did that with Golden State. He did that with when he was with Steph, with Clay, because he was allowed to be free. He was like the air. You ever gone to a place where the air conditioning comes on? It's just so cool. It's the right temperature. It's like you didn't have to adjust it. It just was like, and that was him in Golden State. And he gets mad if someone like myself says, "Look, you had it going on in Golden State. You've been trying to recoup that. You can't." Well, Shaq had his part in that finals. I mean, he did help him get there. And what happened in that finals, even though he was losing some of his edge, he still put up 17, 18 points a game. He hit those free throws. Do you remember in game three? Dirk missed the two. He hit the bang too. So can't say Shaq wasn't clutch. That gets lost about this whole dominance and everything. He hit the two free throws that enabled them to get back in that series. Ironically, irony. Mm, they only say that because they're trying to minimize what Shaq did those first 3 years and those four runs. But anybody with half a brain, especially the first year, Shaq was the end all be all. That was a fact. And Shaq was the better of the two players for me in LA. Kobe got better. And second finals onward, he was asserting himself more. But let's not get it twisted. Shaq made life a heck of a lot easier. Mm-hmm. Well, he had taken a beating, and that was a reality. But he had enough in him to get him where he was going. But he did okay in Phoenix. Actually, the first couple years in Phoenix, he was okay, but he wasn't the same dominant dude. That was the difference. And playing in that system with D'Antoni and them and no half court basketball and run, 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 you know, he just was an okay player, which was not acceptable for a guy who was as dominant as he was, you know, because it's tough for you to accept that from a guy that was one of the last got to change the course of basketball. Him and D Wade got hurt in '05. Would have loved to see the finals against the Spurs. That would have him against Duncan would have been something. I'd have to think about that. AP might be a top tenner. It's hard to argue against it. It's hard to. two of those guys didn't even get a chance to sniff a postseason. So that's a whole nother story in itself. But I don't think most people care about it though. That's a good stat that you like, and I give you props. Of course, I don't know if those three guys could have played today the way the teams operate today. I don't know. I think the Bears could use Caleb Williams for Walter Payton or Gale Sayers. Barry with Detroit would be a little much because they got a lot of core with the way they play. And AP with Minnesota today. I don't know. Well, as long as they tell that safety to shut up and don't let Washington beat them at the end, because that was the turning point of that season last year. I don't get excited about no all seasons. You know, you talk to the wrong persons. This is not the NBA where you got an all season, you get excited. The NFL is too tough. All season doesn't mean jack if you don't win. How many teams then look good in the all season? The season start and they get waxed. Obviously, they're gonna make adjustments for Caleb Williams and they're gonna add some stuff. Hopefully, yeah. How that turn out? How that turn out? How that turn out? You couldn't even win your local church hacky sack race, let alone getting excited about that. And Nick Nurse ain't gonna want to hear that mess. Your second best player spent more time with podcasts, streams, clicks, and views than he did on the court. Come on, man. Let that thing go. Your season was over by the 12th, 15th game. Both your seasons were over. Your Cowboy season was over by week 8, 9. Stephen A. Smith started clowning and laughing at y'all. Season was over. Long butt season. You still had 10 weeks to go. Long NBA season, and you still had like 60 games to go. Man, you hope your teams do you better justice next year. Woo! What's up, Calvin Jackson? What's up? I think last time I told you we talked about Claire Fisher. That's what I got. When I hear music, it's a Debbie Deal. Calvin took it back. Debbie Deal took it back. Wow. That's some names I ain't heard. Grips. But yeah, Jay Will, I mean, that's a funny. That was funny. Both your teams took a L. All right. I got another half hour in me before I gotta go. I got another half hour. Been a minute, KJ. Yeah, how you been? How you feeling? Good to see you. Did you see the Paisley Park with Jesse Johnson? Did the salt Jesse was when Jesse was getting his injury, so he was rolling on that stage. That was like the highlight of the Prince Fest, that thing that they were doing at Paisley. Thought about you. Jesse was in gear. Cool, cool. I don't know if Jesse got another record coming out, but he was axing. Yeah. Just got added him on Facebook too, by the way, so he's still staying cool. He ain't messing with the time though, but that's a whole nother story though. So yeah, it's all good. But yeah, welcome back. Thanks for coming through. Yeah, a few out there. NBA Finals supposed to Yeah, he talk a little bit. I mean, you know, he may have been talking about Prince and he been talking about Jungle Love. Pretty much the regular stuff. Sometimes he talk about his gear. Hmm. But those people just want to hear about the old stuff. They don't really, you know. I like to hear him talk about that new Jack Swing album that he put out that didn't come out. I heard a couple of tracks because I was a song. I think Love Struck was his attempt at MJ and a New Jack too. But I don't know. I'm glad to see him though, and I know that if there's something comes up where he talks about Sly, he did say something about Sly in one of those pitch interviews. He's got to be touched because Sly was one of the few people that worked with him. Even though I heard Sly say that he never knew what the song "Crazy" meant. So yeah, I had heard that a long time ago. Morris and Prince fell out. They were fighting. Prince didn't want to give him no money. It's the same old story. Morris was in that snorting and but Morris was accurate about his work, but he wasn't. He just wasn't really feeling what he was stuck with. Morris was basically feeling like he was becoming a slave, which he was. Because one thing people who love Prince don't ever tell the truth. He was stingy with that money. He was frugal, and But you find, I know he invested his money in there, but you gotta tell me, he gave the cat 50 grand out of all that. Mm. And it wasn't a proper soundtrack either because they weren't in on the soundtrack per se. So it was a separate soundtrack to keep the cost, to keep the monies. So Morris probably just felt had enough of it. And again, he grew with these cats, and it's like they flip when they got some money. Now, I think what triggered is that Prince lied about it, because Prince, you made it sound like Morris had a say in them guys getting fired. I think that's what triggered him more. What's up, TSP? Glad to have you. And also, if you remember, Morris was Prince's drummer. Because Morris played uncredited on I'm Yours, I think, on the first record. He did, obviously, with Party Up, played on Let's Work, the long version, regular version, International Lover. His drumming is on quite a few tracks. And I want to say Love or Money. I want to say that one too. Well, you ain't no one tell you all that, so you got to go. So they did. Then you got to remember they did the movies together. He was his cameraman. Prince talked about him a lot. One thing about Prince, Prince was known for trolling. Again, if you're really into the purple balance and you ain't Kool-Aid out, you know that Prince also trolled a lot because he talked about him obviously in Old Friends for Sale and Playing the Sunshine. He would drop. Prince was definitely a cat that would do stuff like that. Yeah, they might be true. He did. He took pictures of them, and he always had them edit his shows too. I think the Pacers played a good series. I mean, and they might win tomorrow, so it ain't over yet. Could still go seven. They're a feisty team. I don't. Rick Carlisle ain't gonna let them roll on their belly. It's just that if OKC plays like they're supposed to, this series is over. But hey, that Pacer team ain't one of those teams that you just sit there and think, oh, no, not for me. It's his most iconic, but I thought 1999 was better. Controversy and Sign the Times. Dirty Mind is the one that got his blueprint going. That's the one that got his blueprint going. Some of the pretentious fans will tell you the Parade album. I don't hear it, but that's the one that some of them like a lot. But Dirty Mind, 1999, Controversy, and Sign the Times was if you want to show his eclecticness. Appreciate you. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. I try to cover as much range on different things, and I appreciate the support. Bless your soul. Thank you. Prince is one of those kind of people that he's an acquired taste. Some things you gonna get, some you ain't, and he can be streaky. He wasn't a consistent flow as an artist. Uh, he could be erratic. When he hit, but if he missed, he missed. Yeah, well Alphabet Street. But my favorite song there was Anastasia. I like the groove. I know. He sure did. I wasn't crazy about his first album. I didn't like For You that much. I thought it was cute. I thought he would have been like, hey, he didn't change that. He'd have been like a Junior Whopper broke Michael Jackson meets a broke Stevie Wonder. So when he did Dirty Mind, he broke that chain. That's no knock. And his vocals were on point. He crooned, but it was kind of syrupy. I would probably say, to be honest with you, if you just starting out, I'd probably say start off with his hits to be on the safe side because he's one of those kind of artists. Now I'm gonna say something that's a hot take or not. If I'm honest, I don't think he had albums that I could listen to all the way through. I did like stuff on the albums. I don't think he was completist like that. So to understand him, Dirty Mind might be a bit jarring though. It for that style. Controversy was a little bit more developed than that, but 1999 he did. But did you know that was it William Dowdy who happened to have a father that was a lawyer? Went to Warner Brothers, got some points, got and then renegotiated because Prince got in the hole, and he also had signed a bad deal. So Darty's dad, who was a lawyer, got in there with a hot shot, and they straightened out that first record. That's how he was able to do the Prince album, and they, that's what happened. And Tommy Vicari, who was the executive producer on it, ended up doing regular other productions on other records, was the executive on that record. Of course, he cut the record at Chris Moon's studio, and Chris Moon co-wrote "Soft and Wet." So well, DMSR was my jam. That was my cut, and to me, that's the Prince anthem. If you're a Purple Head or a Prince fan from back in the day, DMSR is the one because that was his anthem. DMSR was his anthem, and of course, Lady Cat Drive with Joe Jones in the background. You know, but there are things about 19. I like the grooves on there. I mean, I like the title track. Little Real Corvette. I like the long version better. LC, yep, that was the cut. Let's pretend we're married only because of the ending part. A little bit long on that Euro synth part. I like AUT-O-Matic. Something the water does not compute. Never was that big on Free, but I did hear the acoustic version. It ain't bad. I like Lady Cab Driver, but DMSR was my cut. I like the. Now, I will say this about Lady Cab Driver. The Minneapolis, that was Minneapolis with the guitar and the backwards underground drums and the way he looped his vocals and the synthesizers, the horns. Not crazy about Delirious, the rockabilly, his Chuck Berry meets Elvis thing. I'm gonna take a lead at. Um, How come you don't call me anymore was like one of the fieriest B sides he ever had. Well, he was putting concepts together. He was putting concepts together. Dirty Mind was like pretty much he just was like kind of flowing that one. Like I said, that's what changed him. I'd say that about Michael Jackson too. I'd I'd say that about Michael Jackson before Prince because he came out before him and he had that concept of Motown records. I'd say with Prince, they took the ability to manipulate their sound more than anything because he found ways to flip his style and his sound. No, I didn't. She sounded like she was a frog getting choked out. I don't care for her voice. And I thought it was a cutesy song. You know, Prince had to deal with Clive David. That was business. And she sold a lot of records. But no, I didn't like it. I like a Stephanie Mills version better. I thought the video was hokey and it didn't really go relevant to what Prince had done with the original. But again, people don't pay attention to the stuff because if they did, they'd see how hokey it was. I thought it was hokey. I'm not a Alicia Keys fan. I think she sounds like I think her playing is marginal. It's okay, and her vocals sound like she's getting croaked out. So I'm not. She's an alright artist, just okay. Not my kind of artist though. And there's a reason why she pretty much burned out because you ain't heard nobody say anything about her in years. But she got the right look, and there was a time Prince would have definitely probably would have checked her out. She had Clive Davis. She had the marketing behind her, and she covered enough. She's the female version of John Legend, except he might be a better player than her. But they both equally put me to sleep though. And they were hoping that she would sound like she was a NyQuil 12-year-old sounding like Michael Jackson. That's what they was hoping because she had that real tone. Did you hear what Rick James said? Rick James said there ain't no songs in A minor. He clapped on her hard. That was funny, but he was right though. Yeah, it's just the imagery, and she was on Oprah. I like Atlantic Star. I probably listen to Atlantic Star song more, but it's gonna be Rolls Royce. When she don't hit that note, she's okay. But people know when she hits that croaky note, like she did to Usher at the Super Bowl. Even Jay Z told her, "Don't hit that note." And Prince was looking at her crazy when she got on top of that piano playing. No, no, she's okay. She very got a lot of hype. She had some songs that were tailor made for what she did, but oh well, that's not saying much. That's not saying much. But anyway, I listened to the Atlantic Star song more, but I gotta go Rolls Royce though, because that's a classic. And Atlantic Star might be seen as like a broke version of Rolls Royce if you get technical. You know, I like a lot. I did like Atlantic Star stuff, and they work with James Anthony Carmichael, work with the Commodores. But man, if you'd have said a touch of four leaf clover, I would have had that have been tougher because that's what I've been listening to. Obviously, I love that bass on that song. But Rolls Royce is gonna win that. Gwen Dickey sung her behind off on that song. But I like Barbara Willis though. Oh, I was a huge on Rick James. I think the problem is that he commercialism hurt him, and he did shift from traditional groove with horns to synthesizers, but it's just that keeping those catchy type of songs, and that's what he was so good at. He ended up writing better songs for the Mary Jane Girls and for others than himself, and that's what happened. And he was really firing on cylinders, and he cooled off. But he always kept an ear to what worked. But I think that he was hurt by the fact that Motown didn't push him. The industry was racist, and they didn't push him on the TV. Mary Jane Girls, Eddie Murphy benefited more than he did, and I think that he took it personal, and of course with the drugs, everything kind of weighed down what was going on. But make no mistake about it, the cat could flat out right. He's the one who made funk accessible in the modern era with catchy grooves, and of course with Tina Marie. Oh yeah, he was a protege talent scout. He knew how to get the best out of people, and that's some greatness in itself. That's greatness in itself. Not to mention the rapper sampled his music, which gave it a whole nother era, another life. For me, it's Rick James, and I love Cameo, but Rick uh, was a better writer and had impact in the time. He had impact in the time when it was tougher. He was back. He was going for it. He was going for it. Now they were able to adapt more over time. Oh, you're funny with this one. New edition. I like End of the Road because it jacks Tom Bell and the Spinners, and it's a good strong song. But Can You Stand the Rain? That's like an anthem. And I'm gonna have to take the originals with it because Ralph and Johnny sounded great on that song. I'm not saying Wanya and them didn't, and I did like them with Babyface. I mean, he was their Smokey Robinson because they never had anybody else who could. Even Jamie Lewis and them couldn't write like Babyface and Boyz II Men just had. That was a song book, and they could have probably done the Babyface songbook and hit with that too. So, but I got to give it to New Edition on that one. That's a good question though. I never get asked that one. And Charlene, yeah, I like both of them. I was born in Buffalo, and I might. It's not a bias just with Rick. It's just that his songs just hit more with me. He was a better writer. They had great production, but Rick hit. Where it took them a while to hit. Rick hit. I mean, when you listen to Bustin' Out and you listen to Mary Jane and You and I mean, he came out hit hard. Well, it's because her uncle owns the rights. And since people nowadays got AI and they've got all kinds of technology and they can make a cash and they own the rights to it, anything can sell. That's what they'll do. You know, I mean, there'll be people who will buy a little bit here, a little bit there. Now, it's not gonna hurt. It's not gonna be a disaster in the way you know it because uh, it would be it'll work. It'll work for what they want. But she was gearing towards more film. But I think that people are going to romanticize it more. That's what I think. If Rick James produced, um, if it sounded like Ghetto Life, it depends on what kind of groove it was. But that would have to been the Rick James period from '81 to about '84 to get that. And I don't know if he could have though at that point. I don't know. I think he could have, but I don't know because there was two different types of tones at all. And Rick didn't have guitar flaying like Dirty Diana did. I'm taking Mary J on that one. I like Just Fine. Just Fine was a real MJ type of song too, by the way. Had that real snappy vibe. I like that. I like her happy upbeat songs. She had Mariah Carey on that one. I like that chorus a lot too. I listen to like when she had a hit like that, but some of her stuff. What's up? Well, got a lot of different folks coming through here. Good to see you. What's happening? See, I like old Mary, but I don't like all her records though. But she had a few songs that I like after the OOs, like that one. can't remember the last Mary. That might be the last Mary song I could get with, if I'm honest. She did a night to remember, and that was horrible. And some of that stuff I just ain't even paid no attention to. But just fine was catchy. When she worked with Dream, now when you're working with Tank, look, Tank is technical, like the guy who's the young deacon who comes up with something. But he did write Unpredictable for Jamie Foxx. He has some stuff, but he's always a third tier act. I watch his show though. I do love the R&B podcast, and I love when he does top five. I love that. I be cracking up and all that, but he always is like two steps behind. Was he's a sidekick to a sidekick. It's passive aggressive. You could say that. You could say that. Back in Black. I love they drums and they kick. That's one thing about ACDC. I love the way they music kicked. I mean, if you could just have bass and drums, and guitar like that, and you could make that, and they groove too. That stuff was funky. Boom, 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 boom. That was funky. Back in Black. Me and him are kind of like he's like an after school special that we ain't nobody looking for me. Don't say no stuff like that in here. Ain't got nobody looking for me. D'Angelo is one of those cats that talented, but it's almost like a tragic. It's almost like somebody that you just wish that that you just wonder what happened, you and then he mumbled. He just couldn't really hold that kind of tension because when that whole Untitled video came out, you know, I'll put it to you like this. Um, I don't want no morbid message on here. No way. When I think about D'Angelo, I wish he could have give R. Kelly a run. As far as putting out records every year and the song, the structure would have been very interesting because he got his attention when R. Kelly came up with Bad Man from the Batman soundtrack. He got his attention, and I think that but he just kind of teased people. And then, like I said before, it's like somebody that you see as an athlete who had a couple of moments, and then it kind of just and you can't really even uh, you just have you scratching your head because you saw something and then it never came back before it had a chance to start. Some people may say that about Kawhi Leonard. D'Angelo is one of those kind of people, you know. So Queen was better overall in terms of songwriting, versatility. But for the groove, I'm going with ACDC. You depend on what you're talking about. If you're talking about overall, I'm going Queen. If you're talking about for groove, it's ACDC for me. Green had the vocals, but Marvin Gaye's song had the jazz, the blues, the whole nine. It's hard to beat in the city blues. But those were two of the most soulfulest cats you could ever put up against each other. And you couldn't go wrong. You couldn't go wrong. Huge fan of them both. Okay, I got like a half hour exactly. I'm gonna be on for a half hour more. This been so good. I'm gonna do a half hour more. We're definitely having a good day. That's a good pick, though, man. Def Leppard. And the drummer had that car accident. He be playing. He keeps a good pocket. They actually changed their sound up in the '90s with more groove. They were huge. Funny story about them in the '80s. They were kind of like the Garth Brooks of like they sold a lot of records and they always had to deal with Michael Jackson. And they were big, Pyromania and you know Photograph. They had some big songs. They sold a lot. They weren't, but yet they were. They sold a lot, but they weren't like Duran Duran. They weren't, But uh, I can't. Joe Elliott was the lead singer, guitarist, and I kept the drummer. But I like some of their stuff, But that was kind of corny, though. But I do play it once in a while for a joke, though, because I used to use it for when I was making Kool Aid. But they were catchy, though. Hey, Def Leppard was catchy. What's amazing? How you doing? Thank you for coming through. But what's amazing though? We're having a good round conversation about a lot of topics. I got some cats talking about music, some people talking about sports, some people talking about social issues. So we got a lot going on. So welcome to the party. But this ain't a Diddy party, so you get to go home and you'll be in one piece. All right. Love them both, but for different reasons. The Blue Notes, because that's a sad torch song. But the Spinners Harmony, I mean, I think I got to give it to. And let me tell you something. Tom Bell's horn arrangements was off the chain. Gambling Huff, but I got to give it to the Spinners. I would listen to "I'll Be Around" because it was hecka catchy. The Miss You was a tough song though. It's a tough song. That's a good heavyweight fight there. And the funny thing is, I ain't never ever put them two up against each other. That's the first time I ever thought about it. But the Spinners had those catchy songs. Miss You's tough, but I have to give it to "I'll Be Around." Because I can't help but have thinking what Tom Bell did. And ironically, they were both working out the same quarters, but it seemed like a different matter. Yeah, I like it though. I like it. I ain't got no problem with it. Because if hey, look, if you can challenge my brain, you definitely all cool in the game with me. I'm with that. I don't like nothing to be two where you can't think. But I had to think for a moment because Tom Bell and his associates with Gamble and Huff, and then I had to think about the strings. The arrangement was going in my head. And I remember how long "Miss You" was too, because they had some long songs. It's funny. Back in the day, you listen to them songs. Them songs seem like they go on like half the night. But then as time goes on, them songs. I used to feel that way about Luther until I remember listening to House is Not Home one day, and that thing was over in 3 minutes. I thought, what happened? Why did I think the song was so long? So, but anyway, good topics, good discussions. Thank you again for coming through Angie's Place. So feel free. Lover's Holiday. I know the demo was called Would You Mind, but it's Lover's Holiday. I'm taking EWF. And ironically, those are my two favorite bands ever. Ironically. And then Sly and the Family Stone is third, who I call the most important band America ever produced. But Earth, Wind, and Eyes is my one and two. And Love's Holiday, Would You Mind is gonna win. That vamp was everything. I mean, it was sophisticated, but it was straightforward. Now I love that Ozzy Brothers song, but eh, Love's Holiday was my jam. That was my jam. Love the vamp. Love the way Phillips' vocals hit in the middle part. I mean, just the layering. And that was the first album they cut after Charles Stephanie, fully without Charles Stephanie. So that was saying something. They made a statement with that All in All album. Yeah, I'm not saying I didn't either. I mean, it listen, let me put it to you like this. It takes a special song to beat the Isleys. Put it to you like that. It takes a special song and artistry to beat the Isleys. You're not just gonna beat the Isleys by talking about it. Now, depending on what era of the Isleys we talking about, but in their peak, in their prime, you though I did like to miss the big zero stuff with them and R. Kelly. I mean, I would. Contagious was a cut. What would you do? I like that, like the remix of that. There's some stuff that I like that they did together. Obviously, down low, all that, and friend of mine. So that was tight, all the way up to that point. I ain't I don't really anything after I think 4 or 5 has been hit and miss. But before that, mm-hmm. But them Ozzy's got so many chapters. It's not even funny. I mean, 3+3 era with Chris Jasper was insane. But you got to be a pretty special act to beat them. Let's just say that. Ain't too many people are gonna beat them. Not from the song, because again, they had songs, and when one of my criterias when you ask me about artists is it comes down to songwriting, production, instrumentation. I like beats and stuff, but I'm more about the songwriters. That's where I'm at. If you hit me with the songs, that's what I'll talk about. Isaac can beat you with grooves though. Okay. Cheryl Lynn. And I do like the Evelyn Champagne King song. She did that with Kashif. I love that groove. And that was very much Leon Silver's inspired. But got to be real, that's where David Foster got his funk chops and that whole groove and Ray Parker Jr. on guitar and the Total Cats. That's why Total got they really. That's like when before David Park and them before they did Low Down for Boss Skaggs got to be real. And of course when she did Georgie Porgy, got to be real was just a straight bump, boom, boom, mm, 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 mm. I mean, hook, line, and sinker, you couldn't go wrong with it. That's just one of them songs that her voice, instrumentation, you know, and she should have been bigger too. I mean, she could do dance oriented song, slow jams. Now I don't know about her getting into it with Anita Baker, but she had the goods though, and her grooves were on point too. Shake it up tonight. She had some cuts I like. I like Evelyn probably. I think Evelyn had good funk though. So, and Evelyn Champagne is underrated to me. She bad. Still performing too. They both bad, but I gotta give it to Cheryl Lynn. That's more the iconic song. Good thing you didn't ask me about "Got to Be Real" versus "Shame." Now that'd have been tough. That'd have been tough. Bet Your She Don't Love You was my jam too by Evelyn Champagne. I love that ding 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 ding. She had some cuts that I used to bump. So probably listen to Evelyn Champagne King more, but Cheryl Lynn got such a sound that you just can't deny there. But okay, okay. Got about 10 or so minutes, so let's just see what else we keep coming with. We're doing good though. Glad that people coming through. It's definitely been lively. Definitely been a lively one. Commodores, because Zoom is like one of them anthems, spiritual, powerful, and they had anthems too. And I like that I'll be around a whole lot. But Zoom is the long version. If you got a chance to hit it extended, the long, oh man. And I'm gonna tell you something. That era of Lionel Richie, that alone would buy him as one of the 10 greatest R&B artists ever. I mean, his voice, penmanship, I mean, he hit some notes back then too. And I like how they did they slow grooves too. It was like a simmer. Exactly how their music was like slow simmering. So I could listen to Zoom almost all day. The classic Commodore era, I'm telling you, from 75 to about, I know they had that window where they hit from 75 to 80, but I want to say like, I want to say like 76 to about 79. He could do no wrong. He had a couple through window where it was bringing it. So all depends on how you look at it. Isaac Hayes, and I do love the Isaac. I do love somebody because it's got a stepper's groove to it, and I love the way it makes me feel. But Do Your Thing was cold. It was cold. His long, extended grooves and arrangements. He was incredibly progressive. I love the way he hit that groove on Do Your Thing. When feeling makes you move right on. Da 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 da, right on. But I did love somebody that was a steppers jam. They hit me in different ways, but Isaac Hayes for the W though. I got to go to Stax Records. I got to see Isaac Hayes' old green Cadillac too. Spinning around in a circle and around. If you go to Stax, that was quite a sight to go. It was a bad dude. He doesn't get his due. His arrangements was raw, and he made that stuff work. He made it work. He could just, he was inspired by Burt Bacharach, and he would take that thing and just flip it and make it raw. That's what I always liked about him. Like when you hear "Stop on By," and when he did, I mean, his vocals, his tone, he just. Oh yeah, one of my aunt and uncle, it was back in 2008, and it was in Memphis and Stacks. Green Cadillac. It had everything in the back seat. It was crazy and around. And it was great to be there. It really was. It was one of those tourist attractions. It was a sight to see. And that's right around him when yeah, he passed. That's the sad part. But yeah, growing up, because some back in the day, my mom had all his records, had the chocolate chip and all the sound truck turn and all that. So I was exposed to his musicality growing up. He sure was. But just with bringing the wah wah guitar for Shaft alone, but so it's a Psycho, that the long with the he started that with the long titles, in his songs before Sly did. He doesn't get his due as a funketeer. Stuff was funky. Then he did the album with had Millie Jackson, and I mean, and then he would do remakes. Don't Let Go. Yeah, I mean, and he was a bit of a talent scout too, because I think he had some kind of hand with Prince, and he knew something about Alicia Keys. He had a hand in a lot of folks, but I don't know. He had some bad. The whole thing with Stacks was bad investment. Everything went on, but musically, hmm, this guy was one of the most rawest cats. Because before Curtis Mayfield hit that center spot solo, before Barry White hit that was Isaac Hayes, especially with them raw arrangements. Hmm. So, and I got a lot of Isaac Hayes memories. So, yeah, I know Sweaty. I know Salty. I know. As a matter of fact, it was a trip out story because when South Park was banging up, there were cats. That's all they knew about him. And Scientology and Tom Cruise. That's a sad thing. That's all a lot of people knew about him. Mhm. And the sad part about the industry is if you don't have people that support you, and then that's how things go. Yep, people can kind of forget what you about. So, yeah, but this been good though. Been a good one. I got about 5 more minutes before I'm gonna call it a day, so just let you know. Some good topics on here though. And one thing with when KJ, when you come back, we get into some good music discussions, especially when you can take it back, because that's a lost art. You know, people don't really, like again, it's no knock. It's just that it's hard to go back with people who, because your life been built off of samplers and loops, and not having discussion about the artistry. And there's a lot of people just don't really get hit with that, especially now. And some of them is their own parents or parent people around that era. They didn't really think about it. Yeah, man, I'm still on for another 5 minutes. If you know, I'm still, but yeah, I appreciate you coming through. I still got about another five before I'm gonna bounce. But no, I'm glad to always have you on because we can really, because I was so mad that time. I would, obviously I had to with Claire Fisher, but I was like, oh, why is my brain went into a fog? But yeah, once I want to chop it up talking about Isaac Hayes. Oh yeah, and all them great songs he worked with David Porter and with Sam and Dave, all the songwriting he did. I mean, Janet Jackson's more iconic. She got TV, she got film, she's got the last name. Mariah is big, but Janet carries more weight. Mariah ain't got no TV show or no movie. She's got a holiday anthem to her credit. But if you ask more people, they're gonna tell you Janet Jackson. Janet had big iconic albums. Yeah. Well, I just remember the artistry because I remember look, people I grew up with had those records. So true. Now, don't let nobody tell you different. I mean, Mariah could have been bigger though. She could have been. If she had a bigger comeback, we'll be together. Yeah, Mariah. The problem with Mariah is that it feels like the mafia brought all her hits, and it was cute and it was catchy, but it didn't have no substance. We Belong Together is probably like the strongest thing that she probably put in the last 25 years, and that ain't gonna make nobody forget Rhythm Nation or Control. She's a better singer, so you can say she got more talent to an extent, but you can't say she hit harder than Janet. No. Mm-mm, mm-mm. So that's one of the problems. If I then in a nutshell, you know, I saw the thing she did on stage at the award show where she brought Rakim out. No, that was cute, but this ain't like 25 years ago. She's a better singer, and that's talent. That's what we're going on. It's subjective, but if you took a poll, more people gonna tell you Mariah Carey's a better vocalist than Janet Jackson, and she's got more. Cause Janet ain't really what we call someone that you sit there and debate. You don't look at Janet Jackson and think, oh, she's gonna write like Brenda Russell. She's as versatile as Whitney Houston or Angela Bofield or Phyllis Hyman. See, so I ain't stutter. I mean, look, I give Janet's got a great career what she's done, but I'm not sitting around gonna sit there and think, oh, you know, she was a stylist like Diana Ross that just happened to dance, and she had the last name. She had a lot going for her. Oh, easily. That ain't that. The only person that can touch him for me is Nat King Cole. I do like Wham's Last Christmas and Jackson 5. There's others that I like, but Danny's got the soulfulest version ever. Mm-hmm. Nat King Cole's coming in second though. Yeah, I mean, if I put dance as a situation, I mean, yes, Janet beats her as far as a live performer, but Mariah's got the voice that there's things that Janet could never do. I just like her stuff better. But again, what we consider more talent and what we consider better is again, it is always subjective. Hmm. I like the concept of it, but it's kind of very hokey though. It's very hokey. Those lyrics are pretty hokey though. One of my favorite Christmas songs is by Kid Creole and the Coconuts, "Christmas on Riverside Drive." If you ever get a chance to check out Kid Creole and the Coconuts, "Christmas on Riverside Drive," please do. That one is funky. That's the best holiday song Prince never came up with. Kid Creole, that thing was bumping. And they had a lot of similarities too. Prince got a lot off of him though. Kid got some off of him, but Prince got a lot off of him though. A lot of that Parade album, a lot of the concept was very August Darnell. Mm. That's someone who never gets enough love as Kid Creole and the Coconuts. Because August Darnell's a beast, y'all. And there's a lot of reasons involved. So, but anyway, yeah. Christmas on Riverside Drive by Kid Creole and the Coconuts. Type that one in, you'll see what I mean. That's the guitar. I liked Another Lonely Christmas more so at the time. It's kind of hokey though. Banana daiquiris, I don't know. I like the synthesizer on that. Wonder, wonder. That's on reason, but it's kind of corny though. Some of his stuff was kind of like that. I like the lightheartedness, but then sometimes, some stuff I take or leave with McCartney. But one of the greatest writers ever. Anyway, that's about my time is up. So I was on for a couple of hours, but I came through. Glad everybody came through. I will be back tomorrow. If y'all not doing anything, check me out pretty much about the same time. So appreciate it when it came through. And remember, I'm on other platforms too. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Ain't hard to find. Uh, um, I'm on what's I gonna say? Substack and I don't not on yeah, they'll come to me. But anyway, I'm on different forums though. So anyway, I appreciate it. Peace out. Thanks for everybody. You too, man. Peace.